So David, I think probably the least contentious way of trying to get out of a contract that you don't like anymore would be to try and use the force majeure clause. The most recent case follows a long line. Tandrin Aviation is I think the latest case that I'm aware of. And that effectively just repeats a time-honoured court decision, which is you can't use a standard force majeure clause in order to try and get out of a contract just because it's become unprofitable for you due to a recession or world events, something that may well be outside your control, but really it's down to the fact that you're not getting the price that you wanted.
Yeah, and I think people welcome that case, that it reassured them that simply not being able to borrow the money from the bank because there's a recession isn't a good enough reason to be a force majeure. But equally, I'm seeing people in negotiations focusing a lot more now on what is a force majeure, what happens if there is a force majeure, looking more carefully at that long list that you typically find in a contract. Force majeure is something outside the reasonable control of the parties, including, there's usually a very long list. People are now picking their way through that, challenging some of them, adding specific ones, and then thinking about how it fits with their business interruption plan, their disaster recovery plan, and importantly, requiring the party affected by the force majeure to at least give notice that there is a force majeure. I've seen it happen that somebody's going, you're in breach of contract, you didn't deliver, and the other party going, oh, didn't I tell you? Force majeure. And that's not very helpful to people's risk management. So getting the force majeure clause right and doing it in more detail than perhaps was the case in the past is, I think, a really important response to this pressure to try and find ways out of your contract.
Yes, because I suppose it's been seen very much in the past as boilerplate, whereas in fact there's no reason in theory why you can't create a bespoke force majeure clause that deals with the particular circumstances you think might happen.
And that's a good reminder, isn't it, Andrew, that the most important thing is to have a force majeure clause at all, because it is just a creature of contract. If your contract is silent, you will only get relief if the contract is frustrated. And the case law on frustration is all about coronations that didn't happen because the king wasn't well and the Suez Canal closing due to war, not case law that you're going to want to rely upon when you're in a sticky situation. So really important, make sure you at least have a force majeure clause and then make sure it's appropriately detailed.